Championship week is almost upon us. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day, so whether you agree with me, want to talk trash with me, or talk trash to me, you're going to enjoy this channel. Crazy, chaotic, COVID season is nearly at its end, and it always ends with championship week, and the championship picture is starting to come into focus. The playoff picture, that's a whole different story because a lot of scenarios still exist out there, but in this video, let's talk about championship week. Even the group of 5 conference championships are pretty interesting when you break them down. First, let's talk about the Mountain West. Basically, it's going to be the winner of the San Jose State versus Nevada game that's going to play Boise State in the Mountain West Conference Championship. So they're head-to-head. San Jose State is favored by 2.5. They're undefeated, actually, 5-0, and Nevada's 6-1. But if Nevada were to beat San Jose State, they would own the tiebreaker and play Boise State. Nevada's quarterback, Carson Strong, 194 for 279. That's 69.5%, 2,327 yards, 21 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions. They also have a decent running back, Tua Tawa, 83 carries for 477 yards. That's 5.7 yards a carry and 3 touchdowns. San Jose State is the home team, and they are favored by 2.5, but I like Nevada. I think they have a better offense, and their defense is a little more consistent. I know San Jose State is undefeated, but trust me, Nevada, they're a really good team. I'm going to take Nevada, and it's going to be Nevada against Boise State, and I think Nevada will beat Boise State as well. That's right, I'm picking Nevada to be the Mountain West champions. Next up on the list, the MAC Championship. On one side, we have Buffalo. They're going to be in the MAC Championship. On the other side, 2 teams will play each other just like San Jose State and Nevada in the Mountain West, and the winner of that will play Buffalo in the MAC Championship. Those 2 teams, 4-1 Ball State and 4-1 Western Michigan. Now, Ball State just had a decent win over Central Michigan, 45-20. Ball State's the home team, and once again, the home team will be favored by 2.5 points. In this game, I'm actually going to take Ball State. I watched them against Central Michigan. They impressed me a lot. This is actually a very, very close matchup. Similar in offensive yards a game. Ball State, 477. Western Michigan, 479. Allowed offensive yards a game, 404 for Ball State and 420 for Western Michigan. Even if you go by quarterback stats and running back stats, it's all super even. So I think the home turf for Ball State, and Ball State is on a little bit of a roll. I think Ball State will eke out a squeaker and play Buffalo in the MAC Championship. But in my opinion, it's not going to matter who wins between Ball State and Western Michigan. I think Buffalo is going to beat that winner. They are ranked 24th. Why? Because they're undefeated and they look pretty stinking good in doing so. Their last win was against a good team, Kent State, 70-41. They hung 70 on Kent State. They have just demolished everybody in their path. And the main reason is their running back, Jarrett Patterson, 107 carries for 920 yards. That's 8.6 yards a carry and 16 touchdowns. Buffalo is going to run all over whoever comes out of Ball State versus Western Michigan. I have Ball State. It doesn't matter. Buffalo is going to run all over them, and they will be the MAC champions. Next up, Conference USA. Now, Marshall is still head and shoulders above everybody else, but man, they got beat by Rice 20-0. They were ranked number 21. Now, they are not ranked according to the latest AP Top 25 because the new playoff rankings are not out yet. They do have some decent wins, though. Appalachian State 17-7, FAU 20-9, and then Louisiana Tech 35-17. Who will they be playing? They will be playing UTSA, also known as the University of Texas at San Antonio. They are 7-4. Now, they get in because of some strange things. Number 1, Rice won't qualify because they didn't play enough games. And number 2, UTSA, even though they have a worse record, they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Louisiana Tech and UAB. So UTSA will be playing Marshall. I think this could be a good game. I still like Marshall, but if they turn the ball over like they did against Rice, forget about it. UTSA is good enough to where they will take advantage of those turnovers. So I'm going to say it all hinges on Grant Wells. If he performs well, Marshall will win. In my opinion, the lowest of the low of the Power 5 conference championships will be the Pac-12. This is some nonsense, guys, some craziness. In the North, it's going to be between 3-1 Washington and 3-2 Oregon. If Washington wins this, they will go on to the Pac-12 championship and represent the North. And if Oregon wins this, they will have the tiebreaker over Washington, and they'll play in the Pac-12 championship representing the North. So this game will take place at Oregon, and Oregon is favored by 4.5. Washington was undefeated, but then they got beat because they went down 2 games in a row. They went down by 21 points. Came back in the first game, but in the second game, not quite enough. Word of advice, Washington, stop going down by 21 points. Washington, they averaged 30 points per game, allowed 25 points per game. That's the difference of 5 points. That's not great. Oregon, 34 points per game, allowed 28 points per game. That's the difference of 6. So yes, this game is going to be really, really close. Washington averages 402 offensive yards per game and allows 346 offensive yards per game. Oregon, 467 offensive yards a game, allows 419 offensive yards a game. I think Washington or Oregon is capable of winning this game. So really, it's just a toss-up. I guess I'll give it to the home team, Oregon, even though they've already lost 2 games in a row. But they were both road games. On the other side, the South, we have this crazy scenario, okay? This is crazy, guys. Number 16, USC. They're 4-0. Their counterpart, number 21, Colorado. They're also 4-0. They were supposed to play each other, but because of COVID issues with USC, that didn't happen. Colorado still played against San Diego State and won. So they don't have a head-to-head to break this tie. It looks like USC will have more conference wins. That's not fair. If it turns out to be like that, and both of these teams go undefeated, they need USC and Colorado to play each other. Really, the biggest thing about USC is their quarterback, Heaton Slovis. 119 for 165, that's 72%. He's thrown for 1,257 yards, 10 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. For USC, 33 points per game, but they allow 21 points per game. That's a difference of 12. That's not bad. For Colorado, they score 31.8 points per game and allow 24.3 points per game. That's only a difference of 7. So I think this would be a close game if they were to play each other. USC, they're going to play at UCLA. They're favored by 4. And Colorado is going to take on Utah. They're favored as well. Colorado's running back, Jarek Brozard, 115 carries for 733 yards at 6.4 yards a carry and 3 touchdowns. They can run the ball. Their quarterback, Sam Neuer, not so good. 64 for 103, that's 62.1%. 742 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I do think that if these two teams play, it would be USC's quarterback against Colorado's running back. I actually trust Colorado a little bit more. Whenever that game was supposed to happen, I had the upset with Colorado because USC just does not look good, even when they win. So we need that head-to-head to happen. I know the Pac-12 probably would prefer USC to go to the Pac-12 championship, but if they don't have the head-to-head, that's just not fair. I would have Oregon versus Colorado. What's probably going to happen is Oregon versus USC, like they had planned at the beginning. The Sun Belt Conference Championship. And it's going to be number 11 Coastal Carolina against number 17 Louisiana. Yes, it's going to be a top 20 matchup. Wow. Coastal Carolina 10-0. Good wins against Louisiana, the other team that's going to be in the conference championship. So they already have a win over them, 30-27. A decent win over Georgia Southern, 24-14. A decent win over Appalachian State, 34-23. And a great win against BYU, 22-17. These guys average 44.5 points per game, talking about BYU. And Coastal Carolina held them to 17. That's a good defense right there, guys. Quarterback Grayson McCall, 127 for 189. That's 67.2%. He's thrown for 1,832 yards, 20 touchdowns, just 1 interception. The running back, CJ Marlborough, 142 carries for 724 yards, 5.1 yards a carry. Great offense, decent defense. 37 points per game, allow 16.8 points per game. That's a plus 21. That is awesome. 440 offensive yards a game and only allowed 330 offensive yards a game. Let's look at Louisiana. they're no slouch either. They only have one loss, and that one loss is the Coastal Carolina, and it was a close one, 30-27. Their quarterback, Levi Lewis, 165 for 275, 60%. He's thrown for 2,128 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. So he has thrown more picks. Running back, Elijah Mitchell, 122 carries for 751 yards, 6.2 yards a carry, and 7 touchdowns. So I give the edge in the running game to Louisiana, and they have some good wins at Iowa State, 31-14, decent win against Georgia Southern, 20-18, and then at Appalachian State this last game, an ugly one, but a win's a win, 24-21. So in this game, I do like Coastal Carolina's passing offense and their defense just a little bit better than Louisiana's run offense. Their running is great. Their passing, okay. I just think the matchup favors Coastal Carolina, but it's very tough to beat a good team twice in the same season, so I'm going to pick Coastal Carolina. The Big 12 Championship. Number 10, Iowa State will be taking on number 13, Oklahoma. Iowa State finishing the season 8-2. They've already beaten Oklahoma once, 37-30. Nice win at Texas, 23-20, and then their only 2 losses, Louisiana, 31-14, and then at Oklahoma State, 24-21. That was a crazy game. Iowa State scores 34 points per game and allows 21 points per game. That's a difference of 13. That's a good plus. Quarterback Brock Purdy, he's 196 for 296. That's 66%. He's thrown for 2,272 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. But it's their running game that is deadly. Running back Breece Hall, 222 carries for 1,357 yards. That's 6.1 yards a carry and 17 touchdowns. Iowa State averages 441 offensive yards a game and only allows 338 offensive yards a game. So they do have a decent defense. Let's look at Oklahoma. They score 43.4 points per game and allow 22 points per game. That's a difference of 21. That's plus 21 in the Sooners' favor. They are 7-2 with a game against West Virginia left. They have good wins against Texas, 55-45. A good win against Oklahoma State, 41-13, which is what landed them in the Big 12 Championship. And their 2 losses early in the season against Kansas State, 38-35, and then at Iowa State, 37-30. Oklahoma looks like a completely different team. Quarterback Spencer Rattler, 178 for 260, 68.5%. He's thrown for 2,512 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Running back TJ Pledger, 94 carries for 449 yards, 4.8 yards a carry, 5 touchdowns. The rushing edge definitely is in the favor of Iowa State. Now, Oklahoma, they average 485 offensive yards a game and allow 322 offensive yards a game. The worst aspect being the passing, which is 234 passing yards a game, which is what they allow. I'm picking Oklahoma because of that stat. Iowa State is better at running the ball. Oklahoma is better at stopping the run. So I'm going to give Oklahoma a slight edge on this very evenly matched contest. And I think the difference will be that Oklahoma's run defense against Iowa State's run. I think Oklahoma wins this by 10 points. And once again, will be Big 12 champs. A Group of 5 conference championship that is super important this year, the AAC. It's going to be number 7 Cincinnati against number 18 Tulsa. So a top 20 matchup. Cincinnati 8-0, Tulsa 6-1. Cincinnati has wins over Army, SMU, Memphis, and UCF. So they do have a decent resume. Their quarterback Desmond Ritter, 143 for 215. That's 66.5%. He's thrown for 1,821 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So the passing game is actually Cincinnati's weakness, even though it's not that weak. Running back Jared Dokes, 137 carries for 660 yards, 4.8 yards a carry, and 7 touchdowns. They average 473 offensive yards a game and allow 308 offensive yards a game. They score 40.9 points per game and allow 15. That's a difference of 26. That's a plus 26 margin in favor of Cincinnati. Let's look at Tulsa. Their only loss was Oklahoma State, and it was a close one, 16-7. But they also have wins against UCF and SMU. They average 27.7 points per game and allowed 19.9 points per game. So a decent defense. But that margin is only plus 7. That's kind of thin. Their quarterback, Zach Smith, 108 for 187. That's 57.8%. That's one reason right there. Not a great quarterback. He's thrown for 1,434 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Running back, Deneric Prince, 71 carries for 356 yards, 5 yards a carry. I think Cincinnati will beat Tulsa not once, but twice. Once in the regular season and once in the AAC championship. And Cincinnati will go undefeated because their defense can hang with Tulsa's defense, and their offense is much better than Tulsa's offense. And I think that's what will be the difference. Big Ten. This one's a little interesting as well. It's already set. Number 15, Northwestern against number 4, Ohio State. That is, unless Michigan decides not to play, then it would disqualify Ohio State. We'll see if that happens or not. Right now, we're sticking with this. Northwestern, they're 5-1. The reason they're in is they have the tiebreaker over Iowa. They won that game 21-20, and they beat Wisconsin 17-7. They have a stupid loss against Michigan State 29-20 because they don't have much of an offense. They score 24.8 points per game and allow 15.3. That's only a +9 difference. Their quarterback, Peyton Ramsey, 117 for 198. That's only 59%. 1,136 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And the running back, Drake Anderson, 61 carries for 252 yards, 4.1 yards a carry, and 2 touchdowns. Really, Northwestern is a defensive team, and whenever their defense can't hold a team to under 20 points, they lose. Look at the Michigan State team. So let's look at Ohio State. They scored 46.6 points per game and allowed 23.2. That's a difference of +23. Have that win over Indiana, and then they just blew out Michigan State. The reason I'm mentioning the Michigan State is because that's the best I've seen Ohio State look the entire season. Their defense actually looked legit. Quarterback Justin Fields, he's 107 for 137, 78%, throwing for 1,407 yards, 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Running back Master Tig, 87 carries for 426 yards, 4.9 yards a carry, and 6 touchdowns. If this matchup happens, which I think it will, I think Ohio State could make it really, really nasty and win by 3 touchdowns. I have Ohio State as the Big Ten champions, and if that plays out, Ohio State will get into the playoffs. The SEC championship. It's going to be number 6 Florida against number 1 Alabama. Some people are giving Florida a chance to win this game. What do I think? Well, let's run through it real quick. Number 6 Florida, they're 8-1. They have a good win over Georgia, 44-28, and a not bad loss against Texas A&M, 41-38, which I called because of their pass defense. Quarterback Kyle Trask, 230 for 322. That's 71%, 38 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's throwing for 3,248 yards. This dude is a record machine. He's thrown for at least 3 touchdowns in all the games this year, and he's thrown for at least 4 touchdowns in 7 of those games, both of those Florida records. Running back Damian Pierce, 85 carries for 417 yards, 4.9 yards a carry, and 3 touchdowns. So they have a decent running game. They just don't like to run the ball. They average 42 points per game and allow 25. That's a difference of +17 in favor of the Gators. 502 offensive yards a game and allow 381 offensive yards a game. Alabama 9-0, 49 points per game, allow 18.3 points per game. That's a difference of +31. They whooped Texas A&M 52-24. They whooped Georgia 41-24, and they whooped Auburn 42-13. They've whooped everybody. Quarterback Mike Jones, 193 for 255. That's 75.7%. He's thrown for 3,113 yards, 27 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. Running back Najee Harris, 169 carries for 1,038 yards, averaging 6.1 yards a carry and 20 touchdowns. The Tide, they average 548 offensive yards a game and allow only 357 offensive yards a game. Florida versus Alabama in the SEC championship. I have Alabama rolling because of one thing: Florida's passing defense. It won't be able to keep up with Mac Jones. Yes, Florida will put points on the board, but Alabama, they're going to score at will. This could be a crazy number, guys, like 56-41, something like that. So I have Alabama winning convincingly, but it's going to be a high-scoring game. And if Florida were to somehow pull out the upset here, man, talk about a playoff picture mess. Because you know Florida would be in the playoffs. They're not going to leave Alabama out either. Last conference championship, I think, is the most important conference championship. And that's the ACC. Number 2 Notre Dame, 10-0 against number 3 Clemson, 9-1. Most people have it booked down that Clemson with Trevor Lawrence is going to come back and take revenge all out on Notre Dame, and they're both in. that's not a guarantee, guys. Notre Dame, their good wins, of course, against a Lawrence-less Clemson 47-40, at Boston College 45-31, and at North Carolina 31-17. They average 37.7 points per game and allow 17.1 points per game. That's the difference of plus 20. That's a pretty big gap. Quarterback Ian Book, 181 for 286, 63%. He's thrown for 2,382 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So his completion rating, not high, but he hasn't thrown that many interceptions. Running back Kyren Williams, 180 carries for 1,011 yards, 5.6 yards a carry. So Notre Dame can and does like to pound the ball. They average 474 offensive yards a game and allow 314 offensive yards a game. So this could possibly be the best defense under Brian Kelly so far. Now let's look at number 3, Clemson. They're 9-1. Their only loss to Notre Dame without Trevor Lawrence. They average 46 points per game and allow 18.3 points per game. That's the difference of plus 28. That's a massive gap, guys. They have good wins against Miami, whom they obliterated 42-17. A good win against Boston College, 34-28. And then, more recently, a great win on the road at Virginia Tech, 45-10. And then their only loss to Notre Dame, like I mentioned. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence, 173 for 250, 69%. Has thrown for 2,431 yards, 20 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. Much better than last year. Running back Travis Etienne, 148 carries for 758 yards, averaging 5.1 yards a carry and 12 touchdowns. So Notre Dame is actually a little bit better in the run game. Clemson averages 504 offensive yards a game and allows 302 offensive yards a game. This game is not a give-me for Clemson. This is going to be a close game, and Notre Dame is capable of winning this game. So if Notre Dame beats Clemson, that creates another different playoff picture, because that would definitely knock Clemson out, because that would give them 2 losses. So there's still a lot of things that are not set in stone, and the big one is the ACC Championship. I'm with everybody else. I think Clemson will win it, but it's not a given. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.